By agreement, member for Burnaby Lohid.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back in Victoria for the fall session on behalf of Burnaby Lohid, and of course to rise in the House this morning to make a private member statement on the contributions of small businesses in British Columbia as the new opposition spokesperson for this file. October is Small Business Month, making this a great time to think about the thousands of small businesses in a wide range of industries in every corner of our province that are an invaluable part of BC's economy and community life. In a province of 4.6 million people, small businesses employ over 1 million of us, providing more than a half of all private sector jobs. They contribute nearly a third of provincial GDP with $14.4 billion worth of merchandise shipped to international destinations, and that's in 2012, accounting for almost half of the total value of goods exported from this province. So as such, there's no question that empowering not just some, but a broad spectrum of local initiatives is imperative to support our small businesses and the jobs that they create for not just strong, but also resilient economy. So now, when one speaks of small business, most people aren't picturing an enterprise with 50 employees. We picture instead the likes of a tiny ice cream store that I used to help my parents run in a shopping mall. We pictured the little mama and papa stores like those lining the North Road in my constituency. So many will be surprised that in British Columbia, a small business is an operation of up to 50 employees, that's the current definition, and we are home to a total of 389,400 businesses, and out of these, 382,200 that work out to be 98% of all businesses would be classified as small businesses under the current definition. What is perhaps an even lesser known fact is that 81% of these, that amount to 310,000 businesses, are micro businesses with fewer than 5 paid employees. And with 53%, or 285,000 businesses, have no paid help at all as a one-man operation. And such micro-business and self-employed setup are often the case for many immigrant families throughout the province, owner-operated, run by a couple or partners, and with occasional help from immediate family. So just in my community alone, 1,700 entrepreneurs are estimated to be working in their family business or their own business without necessarily having collecting any pay to keep their businesses going. And this is what I would like to highlight in my statement today for the attention and the consideration of the House. As one would imagine, small business owners are some of the hardest working people in the province, and that's especially true for those in the micro business and the owner-operated businesses. Many work long hours to look after all aspects of running an operation, be it advertising or accounting, and often with minimal resources and expertise. So these are 310,000 some micro business and owner-operated businesses that typically suffer from high turnover rates, and many of them do struggle with lack of representation to voice what really hinder their success. So what hinders their success is not the minimum wage or the benefits for their employees, when in fact over 50% of all businesses in BC don't have any employees to begin with. So what hurts them is the rocketing costs of operations, be it hydro, the shipping, rent, triple net, the bank charges, to dealing with what's often complicated and quite lengthy administrative and regulatory red tapes, like we saw during the PST to HST, back to PST transition, as well as the private bureaucracy of Multi-Material BC, or even food safety inspection that remains inadequately, surprisingly, acquainted with the various food fermentation and preparation processes in ethnic cuisine in a province that's as diverse as ours. So be it the Commercial Tenancy Act that's often articulated in complex languages with mainly the landlord's interests, or the fine prints of a long franchise contract in favor of the franchisor, these entrepreneurs, especially the older immigrants and those with a language barrier, are not only disadvantaged in understanding the laws and their rights for effective negotiations and also fair protection, but they're also least likely to be able to claim, let alone be aware of what resources may be available in BC, like the Small Business BC. They seldom have the luxury of time and funds to participate in public consultation. They usually can't afford to hire specialists or lobbyists. They struggle to find support and get training, and it's often a luxury for them to take out memberships at various advocacy bodies. So many of these entrepreneurs make less than minimum wage by the hour. The so-called underinsured working poor, with just enough income to be disqualified for exemptions or subsidies, are crippled by the increasing user fees, be it medical services premium that doubled in the last decade. All the while, they face the same challenges in the affordability, be it housing, daycare, tuition, transportation, like the rest of us who are employed, but we have jobs that come with benefits that often our entrepreneurs are without. Studies suggest that during uncertain economic times, people turn to self-employment. This is particularly true for immigrants whose foreign credentials are unrecognized and often stigmatized by their language or cultural barrier for employment. In 2012, the number of self-employed without paid help was apparently twice that of the self-employed with paid help, and this gap seems to be growing over the past decade. So it is noteworthy that this is not related to the entrepreneurs necessarily themselves, but rather it can be a reflection of the society's overall skills development for market readiness and a number of available jobs. Other jurisdictions have taken on creative approaches to not only identify, but also to customize support for many types of entrepreneurs under the small business umbrella. And in the US, languages like the minority-owned business, woman-owned business, disadvantaged businesses exist in council or legislative body, but not in Canada currently. It is also important to note that access to education and skills training are not only vital for job seekers of our province, but also necessary tools to properly equip our entrepreneurs. And the recent provincial cuts to both the English language learning program and the adult basic education are just one of the several ways that this government may be disserving those who need most help from our small business community. So now, all these are not what I Googled online, and I welcome the new minister for the file, and I look forward to working with her as we go forward. Thank you.
Member for North Vancouver Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to the member for Burnaby Lougheed for her remarks and support of small business. Small business makes up 98% rather, of all our business in the province and employs more than 1 million people. They provide nearly 54% of all private sector jobs in British Columbia, which is the third highest rate in the country. And in 2014, nearly 400,000 small businesses operated in this province. And BC ranks first in Canada, tied with Saskatchewan, for the number of small businesses per capita, with 83 businesses per 1,000 people. Mr. Speaker, BC has made great progress with the Small Business Accord, with its 6 principles that guide government, ensuring tools, supports, and regulations are developed to make a welcoming environment for today's small businesses and to encourage future generations of small business owners. We are particularly proud of the Open for Business Awards, which encourage local governments to step up to the plate to make their communities welcoming to small businesses. This is in direct contrast to the 1990s, where the NDP government's relationship with the business community declined after 8 consecutive deficit budgets. Mr. Speaker, Small Business Month is October, and we're coming up to October this week. It represents the premier opportunity to promote government's actions that support British Columbia's small business sector and economic competitiveness, as well as to celebrate the contributions of small business to British Columbia's economic, community, and social well-being. Our government is recognizing this October as Small Business Month for the 9th consecutive year. In contrast to our government's unwavering supports for small businesses, almost a year ago, on October 10, 2014, the opposition member for Cowichan Valley called his local chamber snobs and clowns in this House. Since 2001, this province has implemented a series of economic actions to make British Columbia one of the most business-friendly and competitive jurisdictions in the G7. These include tax reductions, such as the small business corporate income tax of 2.5%, the third lowest in the country. Contrast that to the 1990s, where BC had the second highest small business tax rate from 1991 to 1999. We've streamlined regulations for business. In 1990, the NDP enacted an average of 400 regulations a year for a decade, and by 2001, there were 380,000 regulations. We've improved labour mobility between provinces, new and upgraded transportation infrastructure, new international trade and investment representatives to help business identify and access export opportunities, international trade agreements that open new markets for BC goods and services, a fiscal foundation that has led to 7 credit rating upgrades and the BC Skills Training Jobs Blueprint to train skilled workers for future employment. Combined, these actions have helped the province receive an A grade for cutting red tape from the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses for 4 consecutive years. This is the only jurisdiction in Canada to receive this grade. In contrast, in 1999, the BC government, or the BC Business Summit, gave the NDP government a failing grade. The government scored a D on taxation and a C for its efforts to reduce red tape. Mr. Speaker, our government will continue to build on our excellent record of supporting small businesses as the economic jobs engine of the province of British Columbia. More locally, I'd like to speak about the North Vancouver Chamber of Commerce. Every year, the Chamber gives out awards in 6 different categories, including Business of the Year, Business Person of the Year, Community Contribution, Innovation, Lifetime Achievement Awards, Service Excellence, and Young Entrepreneur. The Chamber has a unique partnership with the Nat and Flora Bosa Centre for Film and Animation at Capilano University, and students from its film program produce short videos to introduce and promote the finalists, and these videos also help to promote the businesses. Last Wednesday, I was fortunate enough to be able to attend the nominees' announcement at Capilano University Film School. The top businesses of the year that will be chosen: Brown Social House, Procreation Design Works, Inc., and All West Insurance. And I encourage members to check out the North Vancouver Chamber of Commerce website for the other nominees. Or attend on November 5th the gala to celebrate North Vancouver and the province's small business. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Burnaby Lougheed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's the first hour back for the fall session, and I guess the gloves will have to come off earlier than I thought. I would like to thank the member opposite for her comments. It is important that we celebrate the successes and the achievements of the small business sector in our province. And I would challenge the member to have a consideration for the current ways of today's policies that we can better improve for support of our small businesses. There's only so much we can talk about the 90s. So, further to my remarks earlier, I would like to elaborate more on the ways that we can be more sensitive to the unique needs of the various types of small businesses under the small business umbrella, and how we can also be more specific in our support. So, as far as today's policies go, the government's preoccupation on the liquefied natural gas sector is no news for the British Columbians, and as we are well aware, has cause for concern by both industry experts and community stakeholders, as we saw many other valuable drivers of our economy inflicted with growth limitations and even decline, like arts, technology, film, science. Many of these are small businesses right here in BC. So be it the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain pipeline project or the proposed LNG facility, the government-subsidized corporate operations are imposed on our communities without sufficient conditions to support the local small businesses for materials and services. My colleagues and I on this side of the House has called on the government for more local purchasing policies that would promote BC foods, support BC organists, have more local foods, for example, served in BC hospitals and schools. We believe that our long support for these ideas has forced the government to move in that direction, and we'll continue to press them to go further. We are also closely watching the government's effort to simplify the procurement process to make it easier for small businesses to apply for government contracts. In general, the Liberal practice has been to negotiate large and complex contracts with large out-of-province companies, a practice we've argued has not wasted not just billions of dollars of taxpayers' money, but has also cut out and minimized participation of many local businesses, especially construction contractors. So, I'll take this opportunity to continue urging the government for fair and competitive procurement practices that respect the taxpayer dollars and include all BC opportunities. It is also time for the government to finally step up and, like the 5 other Canadian provinces already have, and introduce a legislation that will better protect the franchisees in British Columbia. My colleagues and I supported Bill M219, introduced this spring by the member from Victoria Beacon Hill, for regulation of the sales, improved disclosure practices, and more legal rights for the franchisees. So, during this Small Business Month, we would like to
Thank you,
renew our
Madam.
commitment to look out for the best interests of BC small
Thank you.
business, who make up the backbone of our economy. Thank you.